There's this conductor, and he's meant to be amazing. Every one of his shows has always been an instant sellout, and he always gets amazing reviews, and everyone is totally in love with him all the time. He decides that he wants to retire, so he writes this piece of music that will be his opus and brings it together with a full 52-piece orchestra for the performance, made up of all his friends, co-workers, and basically everyone that he's ever worked with. The stands are packed full of viewers and fans that have waited months just to get tickets to this performance. This is going to be his retirement piece. He takes to the stand and the room falls to a hushed silence, and he begins to conduct. The strings come up, there's a rumble of the drums, and everything goes great for the first 10 minutes or so of the performance. He hears something though, far off in the distance, around the very bottom of the bass notes, where only he can really hear them. He can hear there's a bass drum that's ever so slightly out of time. So, with a screaming mad roar, he charges towards the drummer and stabs him to death with his baton. The police show up and he's arrested, taken away and put on trial, where the judge turns to him and say, "To the charge of first-degree murder, how do you plead?" And the conductor says, "Guilty, Your Honour, take me away and lock me up." And the judge says, "I'm afraid it's going to have to be the death penalty. I hereby sentence you to death by electric chair." So the man is picked up, moved to the next area and sat down in the electric chair. The switch is flipped and he gets several thousand volts through. He sizzles and smokes a little bit, but when the medic comes over to check that he's dead, he breathes in sharply. He's alive! The judge, stunned by the man still being alive, says that since he's not dead, God clearly has a plan for him, and he should be pardoned as is customary. So he walks out of there and is immediately met by his manager, who breathlessly asks him if he'd perform once more. Ticket sales would be huge. The murdering musician plays his opus that drove him mad. Begrudgingly, the conductor agreed. The next week the conductor's back up on stage and he's going through the tune once more. The music swells and the crowd goes quiet and the strings begin to rise and he can hear something again. No one else knows his tune as well as he does, but he can hear the guitarist has made an error, so he pulls out a gun and shoots the entire guitar section, one after another. He goes on trial and the judge asks him, "How do you plead in the case of murder in the first degree?" "Guilty, Your Honour," says the conductor. "Very well, it is my duty to sentence you to death by the electric chair. Bailiff, take him away." So it gets taken off, is sat down in the chair, and the executioner flips the switch. This time, though, the power is diverted from the entire prison and it's pumped through the man, and he's cooked until he's really rather dead. The medic comes over and they load him onto the car and begin to wheel him out when all of a sudden the car stops. The conductor sits up and gasps aloud. The judge is stunned and says, "God clearly has a greater plan for you, and therefore you must be pardoned of your crimes." His manager, who was there to see him off, asks him, "Would you perform your piece one more time? This is it, this is the last time I'll ask you. It'll be invite-only performance, so there'll be no one there that you don't want to be there. Nothing can go wrong. What do you say?" So the conductor, rather grudgingly, says, "Fine, I'll do it, but it was my fault this happened, so warn everyone that comes in, okay?" So the next week he's in front of the orchestra. He begins to bring the music up, the strings swell and the drums bang. The performance goes on for another 10 minutes and everyone is listening, stunned by the beauty and majesty of the music and the insanity of the composer before them. But the composer can hear something. He hears a triangle that's not quite in time with everything else. So he reaches down below the podium, pulls out a rocket launcher and fires. The rocket flies out of the tube and pulps the entire percussion section. By this point the police are pretty much used to it. They run up, grab him, take him away. At his trial the judge looks at him and says, "Do I really need to ask?" "No, Your Honour, I'm guilty." "Very well, I hereby sentence you to death by the electric chair. See if you can make it stick this time." So he's taken away and sat down in the electric chair. The executioner, who has asked for all the power in the city to be pumped to the chair for this one, flips the switch. The lights begin to flicker and the conductor dies instantly. He's checked by the medic, who gives a thumbs up and he's carted out. He's placed in his coffin, taken out of the prison. There are a few news crews standing around filming because this is the third time someone's been sent to the electric chair. That doesn't happen too often. There's a knock 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 sound from inside the coffin. It's opened and he's alive. The news crew rush over and begin to ask, "How are you still alive? How? Tell us how you're still alive." And he just looks over at them and says, "I'm a bad conductor."